Hello, my name is Terry Goedel. I'm a Yakama Tulalip Indian, originally from Washington State. In 1971, I saw the hoop dance for the very first time as a young man. About a year later, I began hoop dancing. I have been hoop dancing now for 50 years. For me, the hoop is important. It represents, and the natives call it, the circle of life. And it's important because it tells the life cycle of each one of us and the journey that we have and the journey that we're on. So for my family and myself, as we go throughout the country, we share the Native American culture, at least one part of the Native American culture called the hoop dance. The Native Americans see the circle in nature just about everywhere. It's a reminder to them as they dance. They dance in a circle pattern or in a round. For the natives, they see the circle in nature, in the sun and the moon and the stars. For the nest, their drums are made in a circular fashion. So it's a reminder to them of the importance of that circle and kind of the eternity or the everlasting purpose of the circle. In 1971, I was struggling to identify my native roots, and I saw 3 hoop dancers at a program, and as they danced, I felt a light begin to grow inside of me, and that light was identifying my native roots. So it was about a year later that I went and I learned the hoop dance, and it was an idea, a thought, a feeling, an expression from inside to share with the world the importance that I had found my heritage, my native heritage. So over the last 50 years, as I've danced, I've shared with my children and my grandchildren the importance of identifying our native roots, not being any better, not being any less, but being equal to the world, just maybe a little different. And as we go from place to place, we share the importance of finding your heritage, whoever you are, whoever you may be, what your background might be, to be able to share with the world who you are, and we do it through this dance called the hoop dance. So for my family and myself, we represent and we talk about the hoop dance as being a story of a bird that grows, and it reflects us and our journey through life. Each hoop dancer throughout the country has the ability to share their story, reflecting on things that it may help them think of or remember. For myself and my family, it's always been the story of the eagle as it grows and develops, because we see this bird throughout the dance, and we see the plants and animals as it continues to grow. So the hoop dance originated with the Taos Pueblo Native Americans, and today it's become more of an independent dance where each dancer shares his thoughts and ideas about the hoop dance. As a hoop dancer, we're trying to get people to see the story, and we're trying to reflect that story into the individual to be able to see within themselves who they are. So for myself and my family, we're telling the story of our life and the journey that we take. So as the story begins, we're kind of going through, to begin with, the first hoop. And for the Native Americans, they believe that this is a healing dance. So as we take the hoop through our body, as we're twisting it around or through our body, we believe that that's a healing that's happening. As it continues and we pick up the second hoop, we begin to see the small bird as it grows. And as we kind of transfer from one thought to another, we see different formations appearing. When we get to 3 hoops, we actually see the bird with 2 wings, and it transfers into butterflies. And as we go to 4, we see the bird get bigger, and then we see flowers and plants and animals. As it goes to 5, we see maybe a crocodile. The idea is to get people to see it from their view and not from my view, because I see one thing, whereas someone else might see something else. Many years ago, I was teaching some preschoolers, and I had my hoops, and they were all orange. And as I gathered my hoops. One of the young kids raised their hand and said, "I really liked your pumpkin." And I thought for a minute, I said, "A pumpkin? I didn't make a pumpkin." And then as I thought, it was the perfect thought for them because they saw all the orange wrapped around, and it was about Thanksgiving time, and so they did. That's what they saw. So the idea is not for me to tell people what they see. The idea is for people to see and tell me what they've seen. So for the Native American hoop dancers, depending on where you come from, each dancer kind of has their own kind of regalia, clothing that they wear. For me, I come from the Northwest. I grew up in Tulalip, which is between Seattle, Washington, and Vancouver, BC. And we use the Northwest style of designs. My uncle was a carver up there, and I've got a nephew who's a carver up there. So the designs are created to help an individual see different animals in nature. And on my particular regalia, I have the orca, and the orca is a symbol that we use for the Northwest in the Tulalips. It is a symbol they use for their tribe. We have, on the front, I have the sun, and on the back, I have the moon. So for me, this is talking about the creation and the plants and animals that we see, the birds and the plants and the animals, and it's kind of the life cycle in its completeness and everything that we need. For each dancer, they choose their colors, their designs. So if someone was from the Southwest, their design, they could go maybe without sleeves because it is hot. If you go to the north, into Canada, they might use buckskin to help them stay warm because it's colder up there and they want to use a different kind of material. So each dancer uses what they need to, kind of remembering that it's easier to dance with a little less than it is a little more because the hoops are trying to, catch on to the clothing, and then you have problems with that. But each dancer designs their own regalia, and whether they make it or somebody else, along with the beadwork, you either have to make it yourself or you have to get somebody to make it for you. For Native Americans, anybody can hoop dance. The strange thing is, in 1971, I saw the dance. It was a dying art, and I didn't know it was a dying art, and it was something I really enjoyed. As my kids grew, I didn't realize that I should have taught them, and it wasn't until my oldest daughter got to be about 18, and she came up to me one day and said, "Dad, can you teach me how to dance?" And I thought, wow, I should have done this a long time ago. At one time, women weren't allowed to hoop dance. This was a man's dance. And in today's world, we have women who have particular dances they do, and we have men that do particular dances. When my daughter came to me, I thought, well, yeah, I guess I can show you. And today we have both men and women that hoop dance. And I don't know that there was any particular reason why women didn't hoop dance. To me personally, I think maybe it was because when they're pregnant, they can't really dance. There's a lot of things they can't do. And to me, I think that was probably the purpose for it. Today, anybody that is Native is allowed to dance. You don't have to get any permission from anybody because it is an independent dance that's done. So anybody who is Native would be allowed, even people who are not Native. The real difficulty is people that are not Native sometimes have a tendency to tell people that they are Native, and that's a little offensive to Natives. So I try personally to teach other Natives the hoop dance from any age. I have 15 grandchildren, and all of them have a set of hoops that I make for them when they're born. For me, I began dancing as a young man. I was trying to find who I was. And I think in the world today, there's a lot of people like that. We're having difficulty identifying who we are, especially our roots. And I was living on the reservation, and I was Native, but I didn't want to be Native. And everybody identified me and saw me as Native, but I didn't really want to be that person. It was only when I saw the hoop dance for the first time that something inside of me changed. And I found a power, a strength, a light inside that began to burn that nobody contained and controlled but me. And as I found the power of that light, it moved me to do things that were greater than things that I would have done had anybody tried to help me get there. So as I began searching, when I found that, I decided I needed to go and learn this hoop dance. And right now I'm writing a book, and I'm close to being finished. And in the book I talk about the change that occurred to me. And it was almost instantaneously as that changed and I changed. And when I went outside, I was the same person, but I saw myself different for the first time. And I was okay with who I was. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to find out who we are. For me, this dance was healing because it healed something that I didn't have. I didn't know what I was looking for, but this helped me find that thing that I was looking for. So each person, as we go from day to day, there are things in the world that will heal us and help us. And for the Native Americans, they believed that as they used this, it either healed themselves or it healed others. That first time I saw the dance, 3 dancers danced in front of me and they healed me. They began that healing process. So the healing happens internally to an individual, but it could be to me as a dancer, and it could be to someone else. In the Southwest, there's shaman right now. I know a Navajo gentleman, he's about 80 years old, and what he does is a long time ago, they made these hoops out of willow. And what he does is he makes these out of willow, and he goes to heal an individual. And after he heals them, he takes these willow hoops and he burns them. He creates a fire. And it's that smoke that takes those prayers up to heaven, to the Great Spirit, to heal those individuals. So there's a lot of different ways that an individual is healed. But for me personally, it was something that happened when I was young and I was looking. And it's that teaching moment that you have that if you take it and it happens, then, miracles can happen. I taught math for 30 years. For high school, I taught for 6 years, and I taught for 26 years in junior high. And one of the things that was really important about the hoops is these are proportional. So proportional means that they can change over time or for whatever reason. We're familiar with proportional today in using pictures. When we are adding a picture, if it's a rectangle, then it will always be a rectangle. We can't change it into a square or we lose part of our picture. The same is true with a square. We can't make it into a rectangle. So these change proportionally for an individual. These should approximately, when they're cut, this circumference, the distance around, should be the height of the individual. And if we use that proportionally, then 3 of these, when we stack them together, should be the height of the individual. So the problem is, if I'm using 2 of these, there's different formations that I make. Here's a formation right now, and if I look at this mathematically, this is a Venn diagram. We should be used to a Venn diagram. And the problem mathematically is, if these hoops are too small, then I will have to hold them right here so that there's no real Venn diagram. They just meet, they just match. If the hoops are the wrong size, then we get this shape right here. As I'm dancing, I need that Venn diagram to work together for me so that I can use the hoops proportionally. So we see this Venn diagram right here as I prepare to put the hoops on. They need to be the right structure and the right size. So if it's a wrong size in here, if these are the wrong size, I'll either have a formation like this or a formation like this. And so mathematically, these circles need to be used really well. I use these circles in different ways. And as a teacher, one of the things that I did was I taught my students how to use circles as I taught a geometry class. So I can use these circles, and I'm going to show you a 3D model, and then I'm going to show you the actual model of what I did. So if I take these circles and I make them, and I take a center circle, I can use those to make a world or a globe right here. As each one of those kind of take their place, then we have this 3D diagram. As a geometry teacher, my students were struggling. So one day I said, well, let's learn about circles. We talked about diameter, we talked about circumference, we talked about radius. They were all a part of what a circle actually is. So as I did, I asked them to just watch me, and I began drawing a circle. So I drew a circle, and in the middle of the circle, I took my compass in the center, and I made a circle, and then I took the point of my compass and I put it right here on the top, and then I made another circle. And where it crossed right here, I made another circle right here. And where it crossed right here, I made another circle, and I went all the way around. In between the first and the second spot, I found the center by using my compass. And then I found this center, and I went in between. And as I went and did this one more time, I found in the center what looked like a feather. And I used that, and I made this design that I'm going to show you. So this is the design that I came up with. And if you can see, here's the first circle, and I think here's the second circle. And then here's the third circle, and it goes around. And when I found the distance between these two, I made a new circle. And as I made this design in the middle, I saw what looked to me in my eyes as a feather. So I removed the other parts of the circle, and I left just the feather. And that is a design that I used and continue to use on my regalia. For me, it tells people that I'm a hoop dancer, but it's something to do with circles. So the circles are the hoop, but it also tells people that I'm a math teacher. So when I designed this, that was the purpose of it, to tell the world a little bit about who I was. The hoop dance, beginning with the first hoop, the natives call this the circle of life. And they believe that each time the hoop went through their body, they were either healing themselves or somebody else. This is a story of a small bird. This is kind of the egg, if you can see it. And as we add each hoop, we begin to see this small bird or this eagle. We see the hatchling. It's learning, it's growing, but we also see plants and animals that begin to emerge. When we add a hoop, we see this, and now we see the fledgling as it's beginning. It's not quite ready to go anywhere or do anything. It's doing its best. But we also see the growth of plants and animals as it matures. Next, we see the juvenile, and the wings are expanded. They're bigger now, and we can see it easily. But the hoops, a long time ago, they represented things, and the colors did also. The colors on the hoops, the red, the yellow, the black, and white, represented the directions, north, south, east, and west. But it also represented the people of the world. And this is a story of the people of the world coming together from the four directions. So as this bird begins to grow, it's finding a world of its own, but it's not quite where it needs to be. For the Native Americans, they added a fifth hoop. We now see this bird as it has become a mature adult. We see it in that it becomes independent, and I don't have to hold on to these any longer. There's things I can do with these hoops, and I can see the world a little differently. That fifth hoop represented the Great Spirit, and it's a reminder right here, as these hoops come together, we see the nest of this bird. It's where it's been all along, but now it's finally grown. That fifth hoop represented the Great Spirit. It was a reminder to the natives that when the people come together from the four directions, that fifth hoop was the one that kept everything as it should be. A reminder to keep those who come from the four directions together as they should be, using the Great Spirit as the master or the one that kept all things together.